To keep yourself updated, subscribe to Indigo Learn and click the bell icon and download our app OneFin to start learning on the go.
So it's time to start discussion about a next interesting topic in our custom syllabus, my dear friends. We are going to start discussion about a wonderful topic known as import procedure. So let me make you recall once the import procedure what we have learned. What is the first thing, my dear friends? Goods arrive at Indian Customs Station. Then person in charge files import manifest or import report with the proper officer. Then proper officer grants entry inwards. And I also explained to you that this concept of entry inwards is only in case of vessel. So proper officer grants entry inwards. Then goods are unloaded at approved places on working days during working hours under supervision of proper officer. And after the goods are unloaded, my dear friends, goods are under custody of custodian. After that, finally, the hero will enter, that is the importer. He will come and file bill of entry. That bill of entry could either be for home consumption or bill of entry could be for warehousing. Correct, my dear friends? Exactly. So now let's talk little more in detail about this import procedure, friends. Along with section number, I'll tell you, friends. Listen. First, in import procedure, first section what we have got is section 29, which deals with the concept of arrival of vessel or aircraft. So basically what we are trying to talk about, from foreign country, let's say from US to India, there is one vessel or aircraft which is coming from US to India. It arrives in India. Correct, right? It arrives or lands in India. If it is vessel, it will arrive. If it is aircraft, it will land in India. And fundamental common sense point that this aircraft or vessel shall land or arrive only at the customs station. They are not supposed to land or arrive or stop at any place other than customs station, because if they stop anywhere else, they try to do smuggling activity. We know, right? Smuggling means illegally taking away the goods or importing the goods. So government wants very clearly that this vessel or aircraft should stop or should come and stop only at the customs station. Customs station means what? We already know, my dear friends. Customs station means customs port, customs airport, international courier terminal, foreign post office and land customs station. So basically at customs station only this vessel or aircraft should come and stop. Clear, friends? But there could be some reason that due to some unavoidable circumstances or weather issues or any damage or any accident occurred, the vessel or aircraft may be landed or stopped at some other place. Correct, right? Because of weather issues or stress or any reason, my dear friends, that aircraft could not reach the destined point, could not reach India, so that is stopped somewhere else for the time being. That is because of some unavoidable circumstances. It shall be the responsibility of the proper officer to inform to the nearest customs officer or officer in charge of the police station because some accident or something occurred. So it is the responsibility. So it is person in charge responsibility to inform the same to the nearest customs officer or officer in charge of the police station. And let me tell you, my dear friends, when the person in charge is informing the customs officer or officer in charge of the police station, that customs officer will give some instructions to the person in charge, and it is a responsibility of the person in charge to follow that instruction. And let me tell you one interesting point. What they told there is that whenever this vessel or aircraft is being landed or is being stopped at a place other than customs station, then no goods should be unloaded from that vessel or aircraft unless it is necessary for the reason of safety or precaution. That means just because the aircraft stopped somewhere else, aircraft landed somewhere else, or the vessel is stopped somewhere else because of some reason or unavoidable circumstances, then no goods should be unloaded at a place other than customs station. Of course, they can be unloaded on account of reason of safety or precaution or preventive measures. On account of safety or precaution or preventive measures. So basically, no goods will be unloaded and no passengers will be allowed to depart from that vessel or aircraft. However, if it is necessary on account of security of life or necessary in account of preventive measures or safety measures, then passengers will be allowed to leave that vessel or aircraft and also the goods will be unloaded. And let me tell you friends, all this concept is given by section 29, which deals with the concept of arrival of vessel or aircraft in India. Next, my dear friends, after goods arrive at Indian Customs Station, what is going to happen, guys? Then we know that person in charge files import manifest or import report with the proper officer. Import manifest will come into picture in case where goods are imported by vessel or aircraft. And in fact, my dear friends, let me tell you, we regard that as import manifest or arrival manifest. And in case where goods are imported by vehicle, let me tell you friends, in that case import report is filed. And these are the documents submitted by person in charge to the proper officer to submit the details of the goods which are there in that vessel or aircraft or vehicle. And let me tell you an interesting point, friends, that import manifest is to be filed electronically prior to the arrival, whereas import report is to be filed manually within 12 hours after arrival. And one important point to be noted here is that in case where import manifest or import report is not filed within time, then penalty can be levied by proper officer, and the penalty amount shall not exceed 50,000 rupees. Of course, my dear friends, there is always one point in the law that late filing can be condoned by the proper officer. Condoned means what? Accepted. And one more possibility also is there, that originally import manifest is filed by person in charge with proper officer, but subsequently person in charge realized that there are some changes or there are some slight mistakes in the import manifest submitted to the proper officer. Then in that case, my dear friends, person in charge can undertake amendment to such import manifest. That is allowed, provided there is no fraudulent intention. And amendment is done doesn't mean that late filing is done. Obviously no, my dear friends, because for example, when we talk about income tax return, a person files income tax return. After that, he realized that there is some mistake or error or omission in that income tax return filed by him. Then what that person will do? He can file something known as revised return. Here also same logic, whatever document of import manifest or report is submitted by person in charge, that can be subsequently amended, provided there is no fraudulent intention. And let me also tell you, my dear friends, that import manifest or import report submitted by person in charge to the proper officer, at the footnote of that document, this person in charge will sign stating that all the contents mentioned in the document are true and correct. There is a standard statement given in lot of documents that above mentioned information is true and correct to the best of my knowledge and information. That is a very common statement, my dear friends. Got it right? So this all concept is given by section 30. In fact, similar concept is there even in case of section 30 capital A, my dear friends. And 30 capital A deals with the concept of filing of passenger manifest, and in fact technically we call that as passenger and crew arrival manifest. What is the logic of this? Sir, import manifest contains the details of the goods imported, whereas this passenger and crew arrival manifest consists of details of the names and address of the passengers and also the crew members. Crew members are the people who are working in that vessel or aircraft. One more interesting point to be noted there, my dear friends, this passenger and crew arrival manifest, along with that, they are also required to submit passenger name record information, which contains the complete list of details of passengers along with name and address of all the passengers who have booked that vessel or aircraft. Now let me tell you an interesting point. This passenger or crew arrival manifest and also the passenger name record information is to be submitted electronically before arrival in case of vessel or aircraft. Whereas in case of vehicle, it is required to be submitted upon arrival. That means what? Once vehicle arrives, the details are required to be submitted. But in case of vessel or aircraft, this passenger and crew arrival manifest and passenger name record information is to be submitted before arrival. And let me tell you one interesting point. In case where these documents are not submitted within time, penalty up to maximum of 50,000 may be levied. Same point already we learnt in section 30, my dear friends. 29 was talking about arrival of vessel or aircraft in India. 30 is talking about import manifest or import report. 30 capital A is talking about passenger and crew arrival manifest and also passenger name record information. Next section, my dear friends, section 31. In fact, we know this concept already. Once the person in charge submits import manifest or import report to the proper officer, then what will happen, my dear friends? The proper officer grants entry inwards. And let me make you recollect the concept what we already discussed, my dear friends, that this concept of entry inwards is only and only in case of vessel. Section 31 clearly specifies that imported goods not to be unloaded unless entry inwards is granted by proper officer. And let me tell you, this concept of entry inwards is only in case of vessel. And if you remember, we already gave lot of importance for entry inwards even in the concept of valuation. If you remember, we discussed that in section 15, the rate of duty in case where goods are imported by vessel shall be considered on the date of filing bill of entry for home consumption or the date of entry inwards, whichever is later. So there is a good amount of importance given for this concept of entry inwards. And entry inwards concept exists only in case of vessel. And this date of entry inwards, my dear friends, is recorded in the customs record because that is relevant for the purpose of valuation, my dear friends. So basically, my dear friends, what is entry inwards? Entry inwards is nothing but a permission given by proper officer. That basically means proper officer is ready to assess the goods, proper officer is ready to check the goods, and entry inwards is basically like an acknowledgement given of the fact that customs department is ready to supervise the goods and ready to assess the goods. And that is the reason why, my dear friends, this entry inwards is given only when the berthing accommodation is available. That means there should be some space at the port for the vessel to come and park. Because if there is no space for the vessel to come and park, how can they grant entry inward? That is why we learnt the concept of lighterage or barge charges in case of valuation chapter, my dear friends. This entry inwards is given only when the berthing accommodation is available. That means there should be space or berth should be available at the dock. Dock means the area where the ships come and park. So that berth should be available for the vessel to come. And the customs department should be ready to supervise and assess the goods. Only then, my dear friends, entry inwards is granted by proper officer. And let me tell you, my dear friends, this concept of entry inwards is only for the goods which are imported. But this concept of entry inwards will not apply to the baggage accompanying the passenger, and this concept will not apply to any animals, perishable goods or hazardous goods or any mail bags which are there in that vessel. Mail bags is something like letters, postcards. These are covered in mail bags. For perishable goods, hazardous goods, baggage of a passenger, for all these kind of items, this concept of entry inwards will not apply. Entry inwards is only limited to the goods imported through a vessel. So that is the story of section 31, my dear friends. After that, we have two simple sections, 32 and 33, friends. Very simple point. Section 32 says imported goods not to be unloaded unless they are mentioned in the import manifest or import report. That means what? For example, if 100 goods are imported and in the import manifest or import report only 99 goods are mentioned, then that balance one good which is not mentioned in the import manifest or import report is not allowed to be unloaded, my dear friends. Next section, section 33 says that unloading shall be done only at the approved places. Already we learned this concept that goods are to be unloaded only at approved places. So, section 33 specifies what, my dear friends? That goods are to be loaded or unloaded only at approved places. Obviously, wherever you want, you can't do that loading and unloading activity. If you do that, it amounts to smuggling, my dear friends. Next section. Section 34, very simple point, which says that loading or unloading of the goods should be done only under supervision of proper officer. This point also we learnt, my dear friends. Without supervision of proper officer, the goods should not be loaded or unloaded. In certain special cases, my dear friends, or in certain special circumstances, board may permit, board means what? CBIC, they may permit loading or unloading of goods even without supervision of proper officer. But in general, my dear friends, goods are to be loaded or unloaded only with supervision of proper officer. And let me tell you, friends, at almost all the major ports in India, customs officers are deployed to supervise the loading and unloading activities of both imported goods as well as exported goods. So practically, we don't see a case where the goods are imported or goods are unloaded or goods are loaded without supervision of proper officer. That is practically not possible at all. So practically, we get to see that goods are loaded or unloaded only with supervision of proper officer. Next section, friends, section 35. In fact, this section concept already I taught you, my dear friends, that when there is no berth available at the dock, the vessel is stopped somewhere far away, my dear friends. In that case, they make use of small boats or lighters. Lighters means a flat boat, and they move the goods from that vessel to this particular dock, my dear friends. So in that case where goods are being moved from ship to the shore, in that case, my dear friends, the goods will not be allowed to be waterborne unless, waterborne means they are not allowed to be unloaded somewhere else unless the goods are being accompanied by a document known as boat note. Boat note means what? Simple logic, friends. Already we learnt this in valuation. At the port, there is no space for that vessel to come and park. So that vessel is stopped somewhere else. From here to there, in a small boat or a lighter, the goods are moving. Correct, right? So when the goods are moving like that, with the help of a small boat or lighter, then those goods must be accompanied by a document known as boat notes. Why they kept this concept of boat note in the law is very simple. Government wants to track complete movement of goods. Because there is no boat note concept, there is a possibility that in the intermediate stage, in the course of movement, some goods might be smuggled. So government doesn't want to take any chance. That is the reason why they kept this concept of boat note in the law given by section 35. Next section, friends, section 36, very simple point which specifies that goods are not allowed to be loaded or unloaded on Sundays or any holidays or after working hours. They are not allowed to be unloaded like that. If you remember, already we learned this concept. Goods are to be unloaded only on working days, that too during working hours. So in fact, my dear friends, there is also one provision in the law which specifies that in case where a person intends to unload the goods on Sundays or a person intends to unload the goods after working hours, then he can make an application to the proper officer and he can make some payment of charges to the proper officer, after which proper officer permits the unloading or loading of goods. Practically, we regard that as merchant overtime charges. In case where importer intends to unload the goods after working hours or importer intends to unload the goods on Sundays or holidays, he can give a notice to the proper officer, make an application to him and make payment of prescribed fee for the purpose of permitting loading or unloading on holidays, Sundays or after working hours. This concept is given by section 36, my dear friends. And let me tell you, friends, section 37 specifies that proper officer, the proper officer, that is customs officer, he has power to board the conveyance at any point of time. Proper officer, that is customs officer, he can board the conveyance at any point of time and he can stay on the conveyance for how much ever time he intends to stay. So basically, this section 37 has given power to proper officer to board any conveyance and remain on that conveyance. And moreover, my dear friends, section 38 has given power to the proper officer to question the person in charge of the conveyance and seek any information or clarification, and proper officer can also ask for documents from person in charge. So basically if you observe, 37 has given power to board the conveyance, 38 has given power to ask any questions, information or any documents from person in charge. So 37 is power to board, 38 is power to question. So friends, if you observe very clearly here, the goods have arrived, entire story has happened, goods are also unloaded. But let me tell you, after goods are unloaded, it is not that immediately they are transferred to the warehouse or immediately they are taken away for home consumption. That warehousing or home consumption or any transit or transshipment, all this will arise only after importer files bill of entry. Correct, right? Now till the time, who is going to take proper care of these goods? For that purpose, my dear friends, they clearly specified in section 45 that custodian is the person responsible for the purpose of taking care of these goods. That is why we learnt the language known as goods under control of custodian. Now who is custodian? Custodian is basically the person approved by principal commissioner or commissioner of customs. And in fact, my dear friends, in case of vessel, the port trust is the custodian. And in case where goods are imported by aircraft, Airport Authority of India is the custodian. And in case where the goods are imported by rail, station master is the custodian. So basically, what does this custodian mean? Custodian means the person in charge of that particular customs station. Otherwise, the responsible person who is required to take proper care of the goods. And it is the responsibility of the custodian to ensure that no goods are lost, or no goods are stolen, or no goods are pilfered. Let me also highlight to you the concept that it is the responsibility of the custodian to maintain proper records of that goods unloaded and submit that proper records on timely basis to the proper officer. And it is also the responsibility of the custodian to ensure that no goods are removed from the customs area except with proper authorization. Another important point to be noted, my dear friends, that this custodian basically ensures and checks that whether all the details of the goods and all the list of the goods mentioned in the import manifest or import report are properly unloaded at the approved places, and also checks the quantity mentioned in the manifest and check the quantity unloaded. And after that, he prepares a statement and submits to the proper officer. And let me tell you friends, that statement is known as outturn statement. Outturn statement. And it is very important to be noted that in case where 100 goods are specified in manifest but only 95 goods are unloaded, that means 5 goods, something happened with that 5 goods. Could be smuggling has been done or anything would have happened. In that case, my dear friends, this will be informed by the custodian to the proper officer, and proper officer will take necessary course of action. One last important point to be noted in the context of custodian, my dear friends, that whenever any goods are under control of the custodian and by any chance if any pilferage take place, pilferage means what? Theft in small quantities. If any pilferage takes place when the goods are under control of custodian, let me tell you, my dear friends, that custodian will be liable to pay the duty. This point they put in the law so as to make the custodians responsible persons and to ensure that no goods are lost, my dear friends. So if there is any pilferage that is occurring when the goods are under control of custodian, then the custodian will be liable to pay the duty. And one catch point here is that this concept of custodian is liable to pay the duty will apply only to the private custodians, because we are talking about custodian approved by principal commissioner or commissioner. But when we are talking about Airport Authority of India, Port Trust authorities, these people are not appointed by anyone, so they will not be liable. So that means directly or indirectly what they are trying to say is that if the goods under control of the custodian are pilfered, then the custodian is liable to pay the duty. And this concept will apply only if the custodian is a private custodian. but this concept will not apply if the custodian is the port trust authorities or airport authorities. So that means they are trying to say that if they are lost when the goods are in government authorities' control, government authorities will not be liable to pay the duty. But if the goods are lost or pilfered when the goods are under control of the private custodian, then the private custodian is liable to pay the duty. This concept has also been held by the Bombay High Court in the case of Board of Trustees, where they clearly specified that if the goods are pilfered when the goods are under control of custodian, custodian is not liable to pay the duty if the custodian is the port trust authorities or the airport authorities, because they are not private custodians. So in net effect, this special point which specifies that if the goods are pilfered which are under control of custodian, then custodian is liable to pay the duty. This point will apply only if the custodian is a private custodian. Next section, my dear friends, section 46, which we all know, my dear friends, which deals with the concept of importer filing bill of entry. And of course, we know that bill of entry can either be filed for home consumption or bill of entry can be filed for warehousing. And if it is warehousing, we know that we treat it as into bond bill of entry for warehousing. And after that, again we file ex bond bill of entry for home consumption. Correct, my dear friends? Already we discussed this concept. Apart from that, my dear friends, I also told you the concept that time limit for filing bill of entry. Bill of entry should be filed before the end of next day following the date of arrival. So if the goods arrived on 6th Jan, we need to file bill of entry maximum by end of 7th Jan. And bill of entry can be filed in advance also. If the goods are expected to arrive within 30 days, prior to expected arrival, we can file the bill of entry. All these points already I taught you, my dear friends. We discussed all these points in detail. And one more interesting point, let me tell you. Let's say there is one person, Mr. X. Mr. X imported goods from US. After importing goods, Mr. X wants to file bill of entry for home consumption only. But he is still in the process of collating the documents and information along with necessary supporting evidences to file the bill of entry for home consumption. But in the meantime, Mr. X requested the proper officer, asking them, sir, for the time being, till the time I file bill of entry for home consumption, kindly put that goods in a public warehouse so that the goods will not be destroyed or damaged. So basically, you need to understand that importer did not file bill of entry for warehousing. He intends to file bill of entry for home consumption only, but for the temporary time period and temporary gap, importer is requesting proper officer for depositing that goods in the public warehouse. And that is allowed in the law, my dear friends. And that concept is known as warehousing without warehousing. Why that language has come? Because importer did not file bill of entry for warehousing, but he is requesting the proper officer to put the goods in warehouse, that is public bonded warehouse, only for a temporary time period, till the time the importer collates all the documents and get ready to file bill of entry for home consumption. That is why this concept is known as warehousing without warehousing. One important point in the concept of bill of entry, my dear friends, that bill of entry is to be filed electronically and it is furnished in 4 copies, my dear friends. Listen, look at this concept now. Original meant for customs authorities for assessment and collection of duty. So original document is for customs authorities. Then duplicate intended as an authority to the custodian of the cargo to release cargo to the importer from his custody. We know that goods are under control of custodian. So this duplicate copy we file with custodian to take the goods. Then triplicate as a copy for record for the importer. So third copy is for importer. Finally, quadruplicate, that is 4th copy, as a copy to be presented to the bank or RBI for the purpose of making remittance for imported goods. The bank or RBI should make the payment outside India, right? For that purpose, this 4th copy will be taken into account. So bill of entry is filed electronically, but it shall be in 4 copies, my dear friends. Original for customs authorities, duplicate for custodian, triplicate for importer, quadruplicate 4th copy is to bank or RBI. Another interesting point, my dear friends, it is the responsibility of the importer submitting bill of entry to ensure that number 1, accuracy and completeness of the information given. Number 2, authenticity and validity of any supporting document. And finally, compliance with restriction or prohibition, if any, relating to that goods. So it is important that he is not supposed to import prohibited goods. Prohibited goods are those goods which are not supposed to be imported. Example, arms and ammunitions that can be imported only by government but not by private persons. So my dear friends, whatever 2-3 points I told you now, that has to be ensured by the importer at the time of filing bill of entry. So first thing what I told you was accuracy and completeness of the information. Second, authenticity and validity of the documents. And finally, number 3, he has to ensure whether that goods are prohibited goods or restricted goods or what is it. Come on, once again let's recall what is the time limit to file bill of entry, my dear friends. Bill of entry to be filed before the end of next day following the date on which the aircraft or vehicle or vessel arrives. And also, my dear friends, bill of entry can be filed at any time not exceeding 30 days prior to the expected arrival. So in exam a small question can come, can bill of entry be filed in advance? Possible, but not exceeding 30 days prior to the expected arrival. That point is important to be noted, friends. And it is also mentioned in the law that if importer does not present the bill of entry within time, importer will be liable to pay late fees or late charges, my dear friends, unless importer proves that there is sufficient cause for that delay. So these are the interesting points, my dear friends, especially given by section 46, which deals with an excellent concept of bill of entry.